This brings me to my number one point, which is that I strength train to prevent injuries first. The second reason that I strength train is to get faster. But because I'm an endurance athlete, it really means to slow less. This helps also my running economy. The current literature shows strength training enhances running economy, meaning oxygen and energy use, by 2 to 8%. And is for knowledge. All right, in this video, I am going to blab on and on about strength training inside of my marathon training block. To consider, I do not look like this. I am not Nick Bear. I do not have a supplement company. I look more like this currently. But when I am not in a marathon training block, I look like this. Because at heart, I am a gym bro. I'm very gym bro-y, and I'll be lifting 5 days a week, upper, lower, accessory. So let's get into it. During my marathon training block, I am lifting weights twice a week on Mondays and on Thursdays for the first 8 to 12 weeks, when the volume is increasing but not so high that I would risk injury because I'm doing a lot of hard workouts and high mileage. From week 12 to week 18 or 16 or however long that block is, when the mileage gets into peak weeks, I'm only lifting singular time, one time, usually on Mondays. All right, so what lifts do I do? What percentage of max? How many reps? Well, I could tell you right now, but then the video would be over. And that's not good for my watch time hours. So let me first lay a little groundwork here, a little runway on hypertrophy versus strength training. By the way, if you do like to lift and you like funny people, there's a guy named Mike from Renaissance Periodization. It is the science of lifting and sport. It's awesome. Check out his channel. I cannot spell Renaissance or periodization, but I know it when I see it. Check out his channel for all things lifting. Hypertrophy versus strength training. In short, hypertrophy, you're breaking down muscle, you're lifting a certain amount of weight, a certain amount of times, muscle's breaking down, you're eating the protein, muscle is building back up, you're getting the sleep. Over time, muscle is being built. Strength training, you're lifting also weights, maybe a little bit heavier, maybe less reps, a certain amount, and you're getting stronger. For most novices and beginners, you're lifting weights, and almost no matter what, you're gonna be building muscle and also getting stronger simultaneously. However, if there is a difference and a way to do it, and I'm gonna break that down. Now, I know this video is called my weight training inside of the marathon block, but it would be good to compare it to what my weightlifting looks like and my weight training and strength training outside of my marathon block. So in my off seasons, like when it's hot, I live in South Texas, I'm not out doing a ton of speed works. I'm a marathoner. I like to run it slow. It's nice and easy running. That is when I do a lot of the hypertrophy and muscle building. That looks more like 3 to 5 sets of any lift, right? Say squats, deadlifts, bench, whatever it may be, and an 8 to 15 reps scheme. Now, if I lift something 15 times, it's obviously not going to be 80% or 90% of my 1 rep max. So I'm gonna be doing that with lighter loads. Now, how much, whether that's 50 to 70%, you can kind of get into all the details, right? If you go to failure, that's certainly one way to ensure that you've got nothing left, but you don't have to go to failure. We're gonna get into that a little bit later. My point is, I'm lifting 70% of max, 60% of max many times and building muscle. The idea is progressive overload. This is progressive overload. I eat the protein, I get the sleep, I return back to the weights, I start lifting again. This time I may add a rep or two, or I may increase by 2.5 to 5 pounds. I'm gonna add more. There is obviously a cap. I'm not gonna get to 1,000 pounds or any of that, but nor do I ever have to worry about that as a runner. I point a lot. If you haven't noticed, I point. So, next point is accessories. By accessory days, I mean strengthening the specific running muscles, joints, and tendons that happen to be sore, especially when I'm running and getting into higher mileage. Achilles, posterior shins, tibialis, anterior tibialis. This looks like banded side to side, so those little kicks up there, some glute med work. It could be banded shin work. This is banded shins. I wrote it down. I'm not gonna remember everything, but yeah, the hip flexors, Achilles, glute med, Cossack squats, lots of stuff with body weight. Usually 1 to 2 times a week, once for maintenance, 2 times if I'm feeling sore. Because here's why. They say whenever you're feeling it, when I feel my shins acting up, I'm hitting my peak mileage. I'm like 65, 70 miles a week for a few weeks. My legs are starting to feel it. What do they recommend? Ice, rest, static stretch, active stretch, all these things. Good, yeah, feel a little better. But really, I try to strengthen the mother. Because if you strengthen the muscles that in the tendons, then it'll be able to sustain more load and more stress. Okay, now this next part is really important. I do not train till failure. This also applies to running as well, but as it applies to strength training, there's a little something called RIR. Okay, it does not mean really interesting runner. This is not the name of my channel, could be, but it means reps in reserve. And that just means you leave a little bit in the tank. So if I do an RIR of 2, I'm lifting whatever weights to whatever number, leaving 2 in there, not going all the way till failure until I can no longer lift said weights. This is good, this is crucial because you still get the benefit from the lift. Your muscle will break down, you'll eat the protein, it'll build back up, you'll get the sleep, all will be merry. But you'll be able to recover sooner in between your next weight session because you didn't absolutely demolish your muscles all the way to failure. As it applies to running, it's something that I've adopted as well only recently in this last year, so that if I'm running some intervals and say I could run 10 800s, but I do 8 800s and I leave a couple in the tank. 2 days later, I've got another workout, maybe some threshold, and my legs feel fresh. Still got the benefit of doing 800 meter repeats, but I am fresh and ready to go for the next workout. Now, this doesn't mean I never go to failure or have gone to failure before. This is kind of how I know where that bar is, and I'm not really guessing. So in an aerobic base building period where I'm not really worried about it, I'm going for hypertrophy, I'm trying to build muscle, I will go to failure to know kind of where that is. Also to note, you should subscribe. It is science. You can't say that. Facts. All right, so while you clicked on the video, let's talk about the marathon training block strength training. So when I lift, I'm lifting currently as I'm entering the taper just the 1 time a week. Like I said, at the beginning of the marathon block, it's 2 times a week. I do squats and I do deadlifts. These are the 2 main lifts that I do. And then I do a bunch of glute med, accessory work with bands, Cossack squats. My squats, I'm for context, they weigh about 150 pounds. In the heyday of my CrossFit, I was probably 165 before I got into running and lost 15 pounds. I could squat 305, I think it was, 310. So 185 would be like 60% of that. But that doesn't matter because what your 1 rep max was from years ago is not what is relevant to what you're lifting today. These are the 2 heavy lifts that I do, and I do mean heavy because I'm lifting for strength. So today, I've just started the taper last week. I've got 2 weeks out from my marathon, so I'm going to lift. This may be my last lift before the actual marathon day. I am going to lift 4 times 3, 4 sets of 3, very heavy for deadlifts and for back squats. Now, where they say, don't lift heavy, you'll get hurt, don't lift heavy. I am not lifting heavy and then going out there and running a bunch of high mileage or really fast. I'm just lifting for strength. I have good form, I used to do this, I'm okay. I won't lift too close to race day because I want to allow the time for my body to recover fully. So in the taper, I am focused on my sleep and getting my carbs, and for this particular week, enough protein for all of the muscles to recover. That's the main part. The accessory work, if I put my heels up on my rower and push them in for like my hamstrings, This is like a secondary lift with the deadlift that I do. Sometimes I will go straight from the deadlift over into working. You can do it on a Swiss ball or a different ball to work your hammies. For the squats, there's lots of options. Front squats, back squats, Bulgarian split squats, Cossack squats. For the deadlifts, sometimes I do regular deadlifts and then remaining deadlifts, like alternate week to week. You really do have to be careful with your form if you are lifting heavy, but it is not, some people, I think sometimes the idea is that if you lift heavy and then you go out running, then you're gonna get injured. But it's actually kind of the opposite, in my experience.